Hi everyone. Okay, charging. What do I charge? And also, what should I pay? These are some of the questions that I sometimes get asked by clients and students. And in many ways, it can be a loaded question. These are questions that have different layers to it, but I'm going to try and simplify it and then go into it a wee bit deeper. So when you're charging something, you're always charging for the solution and the way that you deliver that solution. Okay. So, for example, if someone wants to buy a pair of shoes, right? These are shoes for a wedding, right? This is a very special, if it's a wedding day, so often they don't mind spending a lot of money on their wedding day shoes, right? Um, because it's a special day. Now, some people may not make, some people say, oh, nobody's not going to receive my shoes, I'm going to wear it for one day. But someone who takes a lot of pride in their appearance, loves beautiful clothes, this might have been something that they've dreamed of, or most of their childhood or whatever, or their adulthood, to up to that point, to get the perfect shoes for their weddings. So they don't mind what they pay, because to them it's about them getting their dream shoes, just like the dream dress. So about them choosing the dream dress, right? Now, if they decide that they have something else to buy for, but it's something they're only going to wear for an hour and nobody's going to really see them, there's going to be a complete different investment, right? Everything is like that when people are buying something, right? And one of the biggest things that many therapists, healers, and coaches get stuck in is just an hour, because something is an hour of, say, for example, well, they're getting an hour of my time. They charge by time, right? But it's even if I invest, and so say sometimes I invest in people to fix things on my website. I can do it, right? I'm techie, but I also know that I may have not time, or it might be an upgrade, or it might be something that's a bit complex. And I think I don't really want to look up how to do that. I'm not really sure there's an issue here. I'm going to get an expert in, right? Now, I remember quite a few years back, I had a really bad hack in my website, and it took 4 websites down. They were all hacked really badly. And unfortunately, you can have high security that can stop most hacks, but sometimes they're very clever. And it basically meant that was all my businesses down, but the more longer that they were down, it could cause problems in the search engines, all that. But it meant that people weren't able to buy. There were lots of things at that time. But I was actually off ill at the time. And I'm sure that was when I was between, I think it was when I'd be I had been in hospital, and I had to take quite a few months out of work. And I was in a dire situation because I thought, I can't afford to get all of them done properly. And I was also reluctant, because sometimes you can pay people who are supposed to be experts in things and pay them a lot of money, and actually don't do what they're asked to do. So what did I do? I invested, in someone that, wasn't cheap, but I got one done at that time to see how it was done and whatever. And that was the main focus. Now, it's like when I hire someone, you're hiring them for what they can do for you in your business. So it could be in relation to they're saving you time, right? Or it could be they're fixing a solution. Or, for example, I've invested in copywriting. So copywriting is quite an area of expertise, right? I've had lots of people contact me about copywriters, and you look at their content, they're not copywriters, they don't really know what copywriting is. But I have bought some courses, and I've done some, I've had even a couple of one-to-one sessions with people that are great copywriters. And believe me, copywriters are worth their weight in gold, especially when they know how to lay something out, how to put a certain way. You know, they don't just have a flow of words, but they know structure, they know what order something should come in, and they can often come out with ideas that because you're so in your head, you're so close to it. They have a great way of being able to pull out you also aspects that makes you different from someone else in your business and why certain things are more valuable, right? So someone, that's why copywriters are so expensive and why they can charge a lot of money. Most of them at least go and do, you know, copyright at university. A lot of them, you know, do things 4, 5, 6 years, and then they've got many years of experience after that. So they've got a wealth of experience and they keep up with a lot of things, and a lot of kind of wee geniuses when it comes to that. So but not just to do with all that wealth experience, it's what that turns into for you, because having a really good landing page by someone who's done copywriting, now that is just not it's one of the things that I do I'm not good at. I have to be honest, it's not my greatest skill. And I maybe say not good at, but it's definitely not one of my biggest strengths. But that person can potentially, a good copywriter, if you have the right content and your lines and everything like that, that can keep bringing you money. So in many ways, it's worth it. The investment is going to, how could you say, pay for itself over and over again. And that's what a good business investment is, right? So if a client's coming to you for their health or for their spirituality or the thing, you're an investment and they have to know that you're a good investment. Now, there are different types of investments. So sometimes people buy things fluke, like one-off investment, and sometimes they just fancy trying out something new. In the holistic and spiritual field, sometimes people like to dip their toe and they go, oh, I quite fancy that, right? And it's more like fancying a cake or fancy. It is, there's that aspect. There's also the knee-jerk reaction when someone has a pain point right there, right now, and they're suffering. And sometimes they just want to buy something to try and numb the suffering. They're not really wanting to solve the suffering, right? They just want to get something they think will solve the suffering. They don't want to get to the root of it. And then you've got the people who want to make the full commitment, but they want to make sure that they're buying from the right person for lots of reasons. That maybe they've been burnt, they've bought lots of things before, or they are at a point in their life that they want to be committed, but they don't want to be invested in your course for 6 months and then discover that you're not aligned or it's not exactly what they were looking for, right? Or that you believe certain things. Because sometimes when I read things, people describe something and I go, oh, that sounds amazing. That's something I've never learned. Then when I start going and I start to see, I think, that's just basic stuff, or I know that, right? So it's about, we all see things differently, right? The solution in a business, it's always solution led. It's always, what is the value of your solution for your client, right? So what's going to be valuable and what somebody's going to be willing to pay in one audience is often different from another audience, right? So it's like if you hire a social media manager, if they can do really polished, like I've had a challenge of people understanding my business, particularly the spiritual marketing, because it is niche. There's layers to it, and the person has to be quite spiritually awoke. They have to be, well, awakened, not awoke, because that sounds like something else. But they need to have understanding. They have to have a certain aesthetics. They have to have certain techie skills, and there's some software that I use that other people don't use. So they have to have an understanding, and obviously they have to be time efficient. You know, if they take hours to do something, it could take me 5 or 10 minutes. That's not a good use of my money, right? So it's important to understand when you're investing in something, what are they charging and how quick are they able to do it? What's the quality? Is it aligned? Is it unique? You know, all these things, right? Everybody's different in what they look for. The more that you understand your audience, you will know. But do not get caught in the trap because one coach or one therapist that offers certain things is charging something that you should charge that, right? For example, and I've said this before, I would pay sometime 3-4 times what some people would pay for a healer. If that healer can do phenomenal, can help me phenomenally in areas that other people can't. So there's some types of, and it's not being disrespectful to the person, but for example, if I go a modality and that therapist thinks it's going to take 10 sessions to help me, but I can go a healer or a therapist that can help me in 1 or 2 sessions, who am I going to go to? Right? If I can get someone that can do a job in a quarter of the time and then the same quality, who am I going to go to as a business owner, right? If I am someone who's very empathic or sensitive and have certain challenges that other people, therapists, don't understand, I find a therapist that has deeper understanding, I'm more likely to go to them. If I'm someone who's had a lot of trauma in my life and I'm still stuck in certain patterns and feel triggered by everybody, I may just go to someone who is more just about keeping the person, in that set, all about just comfort and nurturing. If they're not ready for certain aspects yet, they've not evolved yet. Every client is different, and price points is not to do with time, right? Yes, it can be to do with the other extras that you give. So often in my coaching and my one-to-one sessions, one of the things that I do is I give often the client access to freebies, right? So it increases the perceived value. Now, I don't need to, because I know my courses are very, very valuable, right? And I give more than most coaches that I know, right? And I know I'm more experienced and more skilled and more qualified in many areas than many are, but I choose to do that, right? Now, you have to, it's like some people think that just because you're a healing modality that you should have a standard price, just like with other healers. But every healing modality is different. Every healer is different. Every healer has a different level of experience or, expertise, an area that they're basically shit hot at, right? So it's really, really important when you're pricing your point to understand what makes you unique. Understand if you're really fast and if you can have a client and solve their issue quicker and half the time than most other therapists that you know, well, in many ways you can often put your price point up a bit because people, you're going to attract more clients because they think, oh, well, I don't have to go there. It's like there's some types of modalities, right? That the therapists have the clients coming for like 10, 12 sessions. And there's other types of therapies that people can get really quick results quite, quickly. Now, there also is a lot of things where people say that, but they don't have the evidence to back it up. So when you make, if you have bold claims or whatever, or you're trying to imply these type of things, you have to know it's not just that you've only had 3 or 4 or 5 clients that's happened with. You have to know that all the clients that have come in the door for you with those issues, that's the general kind of results, right? And you're honest about that, or even if it's 99% of the people that come in and the 1% or the 5% that didn't, they maybe had the reasons there were challenges, right? That kind of thing. All of this helps your audience understand why they're paying certain things. So I'm going to explain some. I get asked a lot by a lot of what you would call admins and VAs from a lot of countries that charge peanuts. I do. I get lots of people asking me for work, right? And I know time I've took them on, and some people might disagree with this, that I always pay them more than what they ask for. But there's some tasks that I sometimes do that are really what you would call menial tasks that require very little skill, that for someone else, it's a lot of money in their country, and they're always begging me for work, right? But there is some situations where I've took them on and I've got them to do things, and then I've went, oh, no, this is not, because even though I'm still paying them that, it can cost me in my business. But it's even when you hire MD in your business, you have to see from a business perspective, because one of the things I get asked about is also about admins and social media managers. Eileen, can you advise me? Is there anybody that you can suggest? And it's a minefield because I've had lots of challenges in this area, because I can get some people that are really good. Like Caroline is great with words and she's great with certain things. But Caroline will be the first to say, there's certain other things that she's not one to be doing, because that's not her area. She's not a social media market manager. She's not a marketer, right? So, she does, so one of the things that people ask, they get confused by what a VE is, an admin is, and what a social media manager is, right? And sometimes it can be crossover things, right? And I've had some admins that can do the social media manager and the ad, and they've been very good, and there's certain other things, but there's maybe other things that they've struggled with, right? Now, one of the biggest challenges that you do have as a solopreneur is sometimes you have lots of wee things that need done, but you don't have the time to, like, I don't have the time to employ lots of different people, because then I have to have meetings with all those different people. So sometimes you want somebody that can do lots of small things for you, right? But they have to be able to do those things well. They have to have the knowledge, the skill, and they have to be able to do it in a certain time. Because I remember one admin I had, she was very good at many things and very quick and very professional, right? But there were certain tasks she was taking 4, 6 to 8 times. Now, that was killing my business and money, because the tasks she was doing, the time it was taking, I was losing money because for certain reasons. So when it's the same with you, with some things in your business that you might get asked to do in your business, but it might not be useful for your time. Now, there's some things I enjoy in business, but sometimes can be very for different reasons. They're not as much now, but it used to be draining on me. So I would only do 1 or 2 of those sessions a week, right? Because after it, I would be, right, I loved doing it, but after it, I was wiped, right? Because of the sidekick about the information I was getting, but also what I had to think for the person, the perspective. And sometimes particularly because we're all service to others, we can think because we can do something that we should do. And maybe sometimes we think, oh, we can charge more money for that. But sometimes what it does to you for the next few days is you might get extra money, you might even make double the money that you normally would, but maybe you're going to be out the game and not be able to take clients for so many hours, or you can't take any more because. So this is so important with your price points, to think about all these things. One of the things I remember, I took me 3 3 times to study aromatherapy before I got my qualification. I didn't not pass. It was because I was so ill. And a lot of training skills I started, and then they were basically kind of chucking me out because I was so ill and I wasn't fit to do the course. It took years to do my aromatherapy and then different physical therapies. And then when I went out to do these physical therapies as a therapist, I wasn't fit to do. So I spent all these years learning and making sure I learned as much as I could. And guess what? I wasn't fit enough to do it. I started having problems, shoulder problems, and all sorts of. Now, I turned that around. I chose to turn it around and teach mostly, and went out and educated people. And I got lots of work, teaching in community education, charities, things like the NHS, different sectors where I could go and teach things and hire in. I hired other therapists and employed, and I became a contractor, because one of the biggest things a lot of the charities of the health and the NHS had problems with is they didn't have time. They couldn't always understand the difference in certificates, because years ago, if you got a diploma or a certificate in something, you would have needed to at least attend a year at least to a college, right? But then when certifications, some of the standardization was slacking, and people were getting diplomas. And then if you think about, there's diplomas that you can get in relation to university and different things, and they get confused by the diplomas. They didn't have time to check you know, what the training school was like. Was it a real genuine, you know, what was the quality of the training? And if you can imagine things like, you know, NHS, charities where they're dealing with people with health issues, disabilities, mental health challenges, they had sometimes problems. They had people, and they thought they had certain skills, and then they had problems. And they thought, oh my God, we can't do this again. We can't hire in contractors that don't really know what they're doing, or they've had certain issues because they didn't really think it through. So that's one of the things that I started getting asked to do. And people would come and ask me questions about certain types of certificates and, you know, experience, and kind of vet things. And, you know, it gave me a wider understanding. I could see things from a different perspective. But one of the things I also could see that is some jobs, the organisations were going to pay more for certain types of skills and workshops. And you could understand because they were more valuable and they were more niche and they were more experienced. But I also had therapists and people who were really, really experts in their fields and were far more valuable than someone who was maybe just, you know, only a couple of years out of college and were just doing basic things. And, you know, everything had a different value to it. So it's really important in your business to remember that. And if you want to niche down and you want to specialize in a business, you want to specialize in an area that you can obviously get a good price point and feel confident in it, but in an area that people are going to invest in. Because if, you know, it's always choosing a niche that people want, choosing a niche they will buy at a price point. So when you're looking at your price point, right, you've got to see, right, what am I giving for that price point? What is my audience getting? Am I too cheap for what I'm actually getting? Or, you know, am I pricing myself out the window for my audience, for where I stay, or what am I? Now, I always say, even to students, you know, it's okay to start at an introductory offer and a special offer to start off. I know there are some training schools. I've met many people who training schools told them to put certain prices on their therapies, and they're not allowed to go any less. And they've never had any clients for those therapies. And they feel it was a right waste, but because the training school, and some schools do it just from an ego perspective to say, well, this is what our modality is worth. But for example, price point, if you charge something in London, it may be very different from a wee rural village up in the north of Scotland, or in a really poor area, right? An area where there's, you know, people are really struggling. So price points is there's a lot of variables. Also, for example, for coaching, sometimes it's not just the coaching. You know, if you've got a platform, you're giving out polished material, high quality material, making it readable. Not just easily digestible. If you do it if you have created a coaching program, very high end. The way that the platform you use high end, the way that you deliver it is high end. You make sure everything's polished. That obviously has a higher perceived value than someone who is chucking something up, or just sticking on Zooms, just sticking something in a Word document, or just, you know, giving it. I remember someone that was a psychic. Now, she was very good at what she did, but she was showing me some of her course content, and it looked like a dog's dinner, right? And that would actually put me off. To me, some of it she was handwritten, right? And she just copied it. And some of it was, to me, illegible. And I thought, oh my God, I would be quite annoyed if I signed off of that course. So we're all different. So you've got to understand what's your audience's perception. So sometimes if someone's charging a lot, for example, a healing modality, I'm expecting a lot. If you charge a lot, I'm expecting a lot more. So, you know, you have to think about that. So just remember price point. And when you go to pay someone, if, you know, someone's trying to negotiate a price for something like a contract, and you have to work out, because I know that, you know, in a small business, it's not just about what you're paying, it's also cash flow. And this is another thing I get asked about, should I pay them ahead? To be honest, most contractors don't actually. I have a few contractors that have done that, but most contractors do not ask for all the money ahead. sometimes they may ask for a small amount ahead and then the rest of the work. But most small businesses don't get stuck into that, because if you're constantly paying ahead, you can have a problem. I've paid ahead admins and then they've not done the work for months. And that can kill a small business. And I remember someone who, it was a nightmare. This person I'd paid and she dragged this out for months, and she was very manipulative. She didn't even, what she was originally paid for, she did not, was refusing to do the work she was paid for. And I actually ended up letting her go, and she owed me quite a few months, but I just wanted to get rid of her because the energy was not good. So something I get asked a lot about is, that in most cases, like things a lot of people don't, there are some things that you pay. Like if you're getting hiring a web designer on website, they ask you for a certain amount up front, of course, right? A small percentage for certain things for the time, right? And it might be like installments as they're doing things, and that's how I would do it. I would say to them, right, okay, well, can we pay in installments for each page you do? So I can see what you're doing and I can approve of it. That means that that person has got something, and they're not going to be let down, because they're a business as well, and they can sometimes be a lot of time behind the background. But it's also making sure you're on the same page. Okay, hope that helps. Bye bye.